Hello, welcome back to part 2 of Anika and Mara's story. In the last video, we left it at the point where they made it to a clearing in the forest. They found some water. Anika found some chocolate in her pocket. Mara went and had some fish from the river. And yeah, that's where we left it. They both fell asleep eventually, feeling safe, or at least they thought they were safe. And in this part, we continue from there. All right, then, let's continue the story and let's find out what happens to Anika and Mara. So, at some point, Anika wakes up feeling a low rumble next to her. When she gets up, she sees that Mara is already sitting up, really alert, tense, and growling under her breath and staring into the forest tree line. She looks in the same direction and she notices there are these tiny dots, like glowing eyes of an animal or something. She realizes that that's probably some kind of an animal looking back at them, and it completely freaks her out. So she jumps up and she sits right next to Mara, holding her tight and looking back at the two glowing eyes. And as soon as she sits up, the eyes vanish. So it was already so dark, and the forest was very eerily quiet and also noisy at the same time. Like they can hear weird sounds of different animals in the distance in the thicker forest. But since they were in the clearing, things was relatively calm and there was nothing around them. But at the same time, they were on edge, so they stayed awake for the rest of the night. When the sun finally started rising, they were so exhausted, so sleepy, but at the same time, they knew that this is the best time to start walking and trying to figure a way out because they didn't want to be alone in the night in the forest again. So they quickly got up, started walking, and I keep saying they, but I hope you realize all the decisions are being made by Anika. Mara is just following her, thankfully. Anyway, then Anika decided that it's best to just follow the river because it's going to lead to something, maybe a way out, maybe to another settlement, maybe find other humans, or whatever be the case. But they decided to follow the river. So they kept walking, and for a long time, they were just going, following the river, kept walking. And finally, across the river, Anika notices some kind of a man-made path. You know, the kinds when people walk uh, in the forest for years and years and years, it creates like a natural path, like a trekking path of some kind. So that's what Anika sees, but across the river. So Anika just decides that that's the only option they have. They have to cross the river. So she takes the lead. So she enters the river. At first, it's at ankle height, then it reaches up to her knees, then her thighs, then her hips, and then she just starts to float and she's proper swimming. She's almost halfway when she turns around and she sees Mara is just frozen in fear. She's not moving. She's not in the river yet. So Anika calls out to Mara. She's begging that please get in, come, we have to cross now. Somehow Mara probably realizes that she'll be left alone if she didn't follow Anika, and she jumps in and she immediately reaches the midway mark where Anika is. But because the water was deep and Mara is a skittish bear, she starts thrashing and panicking in the water. Anika tries her best to calm her down. She tries to hold on to her fur, try to pull her. But in all of this commotion, even Anika starts to drown. You know how they say you should never try to save a drowning person because they're going to drown you too. So yeah, that's pretty much what happened. But somehow, just crashing and panicking and creating all that commotion, they managed to cross the river. So they did manage to survive this river incident, but barely. And as soon as they came out, both of them sat in silence for a moment, just trying to make sense of what just happened and also feel relief that they did, after all, survive such a traumatic experience, sort of. Side note, I want to share a personal story because this whole episode reminds me of something that did happen to me in my childhood. So, yeah, me and my sister is 5 years younger. So, at the time when this incident happened, she must have been 5 years old, and I was around the same age as Anika is in this story. So, we were basically swimming in a pool, a public pool, and we somehow played together in the pool most of the times. Like she didn't play with kids her age and I didn't play with kids my age. We played together. So we must have been doing something. I don't recall the details. I was a little bit away from her, like slightly off to one side of the pool and she was on the other side of the pool. And since she was a kid, she always wore those inflatable floaters on her arms. But I don't know how, somehow they slipped off, or I don't know what happened, but she was like, I saw that she was splashing around crazily. Like, there was a lot of commotion on her side of the pool. One point, I literally saw her head bobbing up and down in the water. I swam to her as fast as I could, and when I finally got there, like I said earlier, don't try to save a drowning person, they will drown you. My sister started to climb on top of me, trying to get out of the water, and in that process, I was also drowning. I don't know how and what happened next, but all I remember is a lot of water, splashing, commotion, shouting, me trying to grab my sister, she trying to grab me. But somehow I managed to pull her to the shallow end of the pool and I could finally stand there. So as soon as I could stand, I checked on her, made sure she was okay, she was fine. I helped her out of the pool. And strangely, I just turned around and went back to swimming and doing my own thing like nothing ever happened. Now that I think of it, if something like this would have happened to me at this age, I would have probably need therapy for PTSD or something. And yeah, I guess adults have a greater sense of fear and we live in the what ifs, but kids literally just dust it off and move on with their lives. Anyway, let's get back to Anika and Mara's story. So they did get out of the river, they dusted themselves off and started walking on that man-made path they had seen earlier. So they walked for a while and it was beginning to get dark again. And they were really in a rush to find another clearing or something because they were really afraid of what will happen in the night. And a little ways ahead, they started to see a clearing again. So they ran towards it. Obviously, they were hopeful that this time it's going to be the main road or they'll find a village or something. But instead, they saw a huge cabin, kind of run down, not really run down, but looked a little bit damaged. So they ran towards it, hoping that they're going to find people in it or something. As they got closer, they saw that the cottage had a little bit of a signboard that read Forest Department. So they were excited. They thought this is it. Somebody's going to save them. They're going to be officers inside. So they ran really as fast as they could. When they reached the main door, they flung it open and they shouted, "Anybody here, help us!" And after a while, they realized it's completely silent and there's clearly not a soul inside. So they did feel a little bit disappointed. By they, again, I mean Anika. She felt really disappointed. But then she turned around and saw outside that it was pitch black outside. It was dark. So at least, while she was disappointed, at least she realized that they're safe for the night. They can close the door and be inside. So whatever animal or creature it was that was stalking them earlier, that animal could not get to them. So they sat down for a bit, and after a while they started to walk in and out of rooms, trying to find something, maybe some warm clothes or some kind of food. And they did find some packaged food like chips and baked beans and some really old bananas lying around. So they sat on the floor and got as much food as they could and they ate. Eventually, Anika found a spot on the couch to lie down on, and right next to the couch was a window. When she looked out of the window, one, it was so dark and it was so eerily quiet again. She was thanking her stars that she was able to find this cottage for the night. And then a little ways ahead, she noticed that the bushes were moving a little bit, like there was a little rustle of the leaves and all of that. And she saw glowing eyes again. She turned to Mara and she was like, "Girl, we got lucky tonight." So the next morning, Anika decides to get out of the cottage really early, just when the sun was rising, because the entire time she was thinking if they are stuck in the dark outside uh, again for one more night, it'll be a problem. So she wanted to set out as early as possible and this time definitely try to find a way out. So as soon as they step out of the cottage, uh, she notices something that she didn't see last night, probably because it was so dark and she was just focused on entering the cabin. So right outside, she sees this signage, like those signboards in forest that guide hikers, like left you go here, right you go there. She sees one with one board pointing towards the uh, side where they came from, which said Forest Trail, and the other one that was pointing towards the other side of the cabin, it says parking. We all know what that means. Parkings in forest reserves are usually situated right at the entrance. She figured that and she was so excited she literally ran in that direction. And she would have barely run for like 2 or 3 minutes when she runs into this really open space, a huge open space where normally a lot of cars would be parked, but right now there aren't any. But she sees this huge arch at the end of that parking lot that said, "Thank you for visiting, come again soon." Anika very grumpily mutters, "Never." And then she just pats Mara on her back and they both run. They kept running till they could finally feel tar road under their feet. So now they're on the highway or the main road outside the forest, but they have a decision to make. Should we go left? Should we go right? But Anika feels like any direction is better than being this close to the forest. So they just turned in one direction and they just kept walking for as long as they could. Eventually, the sun sets and both of them are tired at this point. So they just sit on the side of the road on that little grass patch. And they were just sitting, taking stock mentally of what to do next and you know, how to get back to the city primarily because that's the goal. Anika wants to get back to the city to her own house to find her parents. All of a sudden, Mara sort of perks up. She starts sniffing the air, her ears drop a little bit, she's alert. She's looking on one side of the road. Anika stays quiet, but she also is trying to, squint her eyes and see what Mara is looking at. And then suddenly she hears the noise of leaves crunching and the bushes moving and soft footprints on the other side of the road. She is sure that the predator has followed them out of the forest, and they're just sitting cuddled up, hugging each other tightly when Mara just stands up. As soon as Mara stands up, a boy walks out from behind the bushes. Even before Anika could react to what just happened, Mara just bolts. She runs in the direction of this boy, and Anika is thinking, oh my god, she's going to go hurt the boy or something. But in fact, they both just hug each other and they start laughing and cuddling and meeting as if they're long lost friends just reuniting. After this little happy reunion is done, Anika walks up to this boy and the boy stands up and introduces himself to Anika. He says, hi, I'm Biru. I'm from the village and Mara is part of my village. I was out in the forest looking for Mara. And Anika is so excited to hear this because at this point she's desperate to meet another human being who knows a way out and maybe a way back to the city. So she immediately asks him that do you know how to get back to the city? To which this boy replies that there's no point going back to the city because when that earthquake happened and the fire happened, most of the city got destroyed. In fact, there's a huge crack in the middle of the city and so many people fell in. And the few survivors have also started walking in this direction because there is a camp, a survivors camp. Anika stays quiet for a while, processing all this information. She's a little bit scared after hearing about this crack and the fact that so many people fell in and there are very few survivors. She's worried for her parents basically. She asks Biru that, do you know where this camp is? I need to get there and find my parents. And this guy replies that not only does he know where the camp is, his other surviving villagers are also there. He only stepped out to search for Mara and then he happened to find both of them. He tells Anika that they need to get back to the camp ASAP because the others don't know that he's left the camp. And before his elders find out, they need to be back in the settlement again. So they set out, they start walking towards the camp now. Biru is leading the way. And they walk for a long time when Anika asks, how far is this camp? And Biru says, it's not too far. It's maybe another half an hour walk away. So they're walking when all of a sudden, out of nowhere, they hear this loud roar. It completely pierced through the silence of the empty road, and they are not sure where this roar is coming from, but it was close by. They just stop and they start looking in every direction, and suddenly, with another loud roar, a leopard jumps in front of them. The leopard was staring at them and walking very slowly towards them. The three of them stood still, not moving a muscle. But as the leopard got closer to them, they started to slowly back away. The leopard started to walk faster and then let out a huge roar. This scared the three of them so bad that they just turned around and ran as fast as they could. Eventually, the leopard caught up to them, started circling them, and came right in front of them again. And this time, Mara stood up on her hind legs, like you know how bears stand up. She's growling back at the leopard. The leopard is slightly taken aback but is not backing down. It leapt and jumped straight on Mara. Both Biru and Anika at this point are feeling really helpless. They don't know what to do, how to save Mara because Mara is definitely taking a beating. They both start shouting really loudly, trying to throw stones near them, anything to distract the leopard. They knew that Mara would not survive this fight much longer, so they start shouting even louder. Suddenly, they hear this loud bang. It sounded like a gunshot. That definitely scared the leopard because it bolted back into the forest. Mara quickly got up. She was clearly wounded a little bit, but she was still able to run and walk towards Biru and Mara. While the leopard was gone, they were still a little bit anxious because they just heard a loud gunshot. So they wanted to know where that came from. So they kept looking in all directions, trying to figure out where the sound had come from. When they saw this huge, muscular guy walk out from the bushes holding a gun in his hand. That guy ran straight towards the group and immediately started talking to Biru like he knows him. He was almost scolding him and saying, "What the hell are you doing here? Why did you leave the camp?" Biru responds to this guy saying that, "Hey, I'll tell you everything later. You can yell at me later, but first we need to get Mara back to the camp. She's very badly hurt. The leopard attacked her." So this guy turns to both of them and he goes like, "Okay, just follow me. The camp is not very far from here. It's barely 5-10 minutes away. So let's just move really quickly." They reached the camp pretty quickly, and as soon as they walked up towards the entrance of the camp, they already saw a bunch of villagers rushing towards them to help. They all went straight to Mara, scooped her up, and took her inside the camp to treat her wounds and take care of her. And Biru ran back to the villagers. Anika, on the other hand, was a little bit relieved but overwhelmed at the same time because she knows nobody over here. Just 5 minutes back, she was all alone in a quiet forest, and all of a sudden, she's in a camp settlement with a lot of people around, and she knows none of them. So she just quietly wanders and tries to check out what's going on in the camp when suddenly she hears a very frantic man running in the background, uh, asking people, "Hey, have you seen this girl?" He's pointing towards his phone and saying, "Hey, have you seen this girl? Have you seen this girl?" She recognizes that voice and she knows that's her father. She ran straight to her dad. They both hug. They're very happy. They're crying. They're laughing. And then Anika asked him that, "Hey, where is mom?" So her dad replies saying, "She's hurt, but she's fine. Come, I'll take you to her." And then they walk away. Then a few days later, Anika, Biru, and Mara are sitting by the edge of the camp looking towards the forest, and they were just talking about how crazy the last few days have been, how they managed to survive, and gosh, how this camp settlement is so much more comfortable than sleeping in the forest. Basically, this is their new life, at least until the world goes back to being normal again. But yeah, this is what they do. They get together every evening, watch the sunset, look at the forest, knowing that they're safe inside this survivor's camp. As they all quietly sit and watch the sunset, Anika thinks to herself, even though the world has ended and no one knows what's going to happen next, when they're going to get back to their homes, back to the city, when will life go back to normal again? But for now, she's happy knowing that she's found the two most amazing friends a little 10-year-old girl could ask for, a sweet and loving bear like Mara, and a friend in Biru. And the best part is, Anika can't wait for the next time she gets to go on a camp because she has one hell of a story to tell around the campfire.